Hey there, folks. Um, all right, folks. Here we go. Looks like we got the audio fixed here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's the problem with the world today, and I'm going to try to break it down as simply as I can. I've been thinking about this a lot in my life, um, and I've been sitting on a piece that I wrote about this for almost a year now, and I'm really sorry for keeping it back, but it's time to talk about it. You can find the essay or blog post over there on the side. So we have a pretty much a global consensus right now that shit ain't working. All in the world, people are really scared, and it's intense. There's all sorts of problems, whether it's the climate, or the environment, or culture, or politics, or race, or just whatever the challenges are, we're struggling in lots of ways. And it's hard to sort of take it all in. Um, and I want to give credit to Tim Urban, who wrote The Story of Us. He's the author of Wait But Why, which is an incredible blog. And he did a bunch of research, and he tried to answer this question. There's also a link for that over there on the side, too. Encourage you to check that out. But basically, he helped me break this down, and it goes all the way back to the beginning. Like, the very beginning. Like, life. And the thing about life is we all want to survive. We all want to get through this thing, and we want to do our best. And it's really important. I need to take care of myself. I'll defend myself to the end. And everyone else is doing that too. You're doing that too. And we have these strategies where we like team up with groups so that we can then take care of our own group, right? And like safety in numbers, my group against your group against my group. And over time, this like very natural sort of like amoral, neither good nor bad strategy of just wanting to survive, which is kind of the essence of life, has started getting us into trouble. Because as humans, we've learned some really bad strategies. Okay, maybe I don't need to say bad. We'll just say very short-sighted, but yet maybe very effective in the short-term strategies. And some of these strategies basically include taking over the other group. So that looks like colonization. But that also quickly leads to xenophobia and racism and conquest. And of course, through the means of capitalism and like modern industry, we've sort of conquering the whole planet. And these things might really work to get a lot of good, successful, thriving, and surviving in the short term. But they don't work very well in the long term. So this is kind of our first problem. This drive to survive has sort of gotten out of hand as we've picked up really bad habits and bad strategies over time. And we have the fortune now, though, of being able to see that the strategies that we've been using to get to here, to get to the level of surviving and thriving that we have right now, are actually like not going to work in the long term. We have enough foresight, and this is just like as humanity, it's pretty amazing that we have enough perspective and understanding that we can see that we're about to drive ourselves right off a cliff. Now, let's just remember that that's pretty cool that we're able to do that we're able to recognize that we will destroy the climate, we'll destroy the environment, we'll bring the next mass extinction, where we've learned enough to do that. And part of the reason why we've learned enough to do that is because we've actually teamed up with all of humanity coming together. We're all connected. We all are here. We're all connected. We've learned so much about our history, and that's pretty amazing. And the thing is, we also have this, and Tim Urban points out that there's basically like this primitive mind that's like just focusing on survival, whatever it's going to take. And then as humans, we've developed what he calls like the higher mind, which allows us to have empathy and compassion and rational thinking and so forth. And so even though we know that what's going to get us into trouble, like the way that we're living right now is going to get us into trouble, even though we know that, somehow we're not doing a very good job of like coming together and teaming up to sort of face this issue. Because imagine like what we really could be doing right now. There's a possibility that we could all come together, whether it's the United States or humanity or our own selves, and be able to say, wow, you know what? We've been doing some things not very well. We've been doing some things really well. And like, let's just figure out how to grieve and mourn some of the horrible things that we've done to each other. And at the same time, let's figure out how to celebrate like that we got here this far. Because in general, we're doing a damn fine job in this world. But why is it that we can't get into those conversations? And so this is where I think that there's another layer of the problem here. And part of this is that we have this sort of, I want to say like myopic or like short-sighted way of not really understanding that we can change. Now, of course, we all know that we're all trying to change and become better people, but it's hard for us to collectively understand that. And I think some ways we don't really have the mythology of redemption or of forgiveness. And part of the reason why that's happening is because we've gotten stuck in this idea that there's either good or bad. And so, and then we've confused good or bad with good people and bad people. Another way to sort of think about this is like we sort of will decide that like that this is the right way to do things, and if you do something wrong, then you must be a wrong person. Now the problem with that is that if we get stuck in organizing good things and bad things into good people and bad people, then we don't have an ability to sort of recognize that we can change. It also makes it really hard for us to admit that we've made mistakes. And of course, as I've explained, the whole history of humanity is full of plenty of big mistakes. Like, I mean, just slavery, for example. It's a huge, horrible mistake that we have committed, or that my ancestors have committed at least. But collectively, we've all been messing up the environment. We've all been like, just, I don't know, throwing away single-use materials. We're not doing the best job. We're forgetting to recycle, right? And so if we think that people who are like doing something good or bad makes you into a good or bad person, then it makes it really hard for us to face that not only ourselves, but all of humanity has been making mistakes, and our ancestors and all of that. It's like a really tough pill to swallow. And since that's hard to swallow, it makes it really easy for us to take this idea of us and them and be like, you know what? I'm on the side of the good people, and over there are the side of the bad people. And so this good guy, bad guy thing is part of what's dividing us. And so we can see all of our political divisions actually is coming down to this missing of the fact that, we can actually make mistakes. So we all make mistakes. So Brene Brown, as she tends to do, comes in and sort of saves us with this really wonderful way of thinking about this. She talks about the difference between shame and guilt. She defines it as this. Shame is, I am bad. Guilt is, I have done something bad, but I know that I'm inherently a good person. That thing I did was out of integrity. Now the thing is when we feel shame, it makes it really hard to change because we actually believe that what we've done is just fundamentally part of our nature. But if we feel guilty, there is space for us to change because of this feeling of like, ouch, that doesn't feel good. I know that I can do better than this. And so that allows us to have this opportunity of redemption. Now, of course, that takes like a personal act of like forgiveness and compassion. And I don't know about you, but that's hard sometimes. It's hard to forgive myself. And it's even harder, and so then it becomes even easier than to just be like, I'm not going to forgive myself. I'm not going to forgive you or you or you. But then again, that gets us stuck in this like static way where we can't really change. So how do we get out of this problem? The way we get out of this is we realize that, you know what? There isn't actually good or bad. There's is and isn't. There's things that happen and there's things that don't happen. And now that seems a little hard sometimes to say, like, are you sure there's not good or bad? We can actually understand what's happening by understanding that there's better and worse. Now, what's good about better and worse is that we can also start recognizing that there's this whole spectrum and that we can always do things better. There's always a more adequate way of doing things. And what's also cool about better and worse is it's relatively easy for us to define what these spectrums are of better or worse, not only for ourselves, but collectively we can do it. We can say, all right, the better situation is going to be more sustainable. Worse situation is it's not going to last very long and we're all going to die. So are we moving closer to the better situation? Or, you know, we could say that like better is more inclusive, and you know, worse is more exclusive. You know, we could come up with different things, and we could maybe nuance it out. You know, like more people are happy, more people are suffering. You know, like we can start figuring this out, and then we can start measuring things along this scale. But what's also nice about this better or worse spectrum, as opposed to just like good or bad, um, is that it gives us space to know that there's an opportunity for progress and for change. And that is something that's really powerful for us. And it's also really useful because we actually get to remember that we have been changing forever. We've been doing this for a long time. And again, humans, we're doing a really good job. You know, like despite what's going on in the headlines, we have we have we're feeding more people, we're more connected, we're more understanding of our space in the world. People are evolving and growing and learning better than we've ever done before. And so the thing is we actually have all the solutions that we need already. We already have everything we need at our disposal. We have the capacity to feed everyone. We have enough money for everyone. We have enough resources for everyone. We've learned so much over this time. And honestly, this is like our one shot. And so we have to like stop getting out of this good and bad, because what the good and bad does is it turns us into us versus them. And the truth is there is no us versus them. And that's also another accomplishment of ours, is that we actually know that now. Like different than any other civilization that's ever collapsed in history, we actually know that we're 7.5 billion people on a tiny little rock just floating in space. And it comes down to this: we all win or we all lose. And we're a team together here on this. And what's even more is that everyone wants it to go well. Literally every person on this planet wants to be happy and they want peace. And I know that that's hard to take. And sure, there are definitely some sociopaths that don't really have feelings and things like that. But honestly, the huge, massive majority of people, even those people who you really disagree with, they just want to make the world a better place. And so we get to do this together. But we have to get out of this idea that my survival and my sense of worth is dependent on showing that someone else is not right. And so all I can say right now is we're the team, everyone. Like, we know where we are in history. We know what we have possible. And let's do this. Let's just create a little space for forgiveness, which then gives us the space for the redemption. And let's go ahead and come together and face our history, all the good and all the bad. Let's face the situation we're in. Let's accept that I'm flawed, you're flawed, we all make mistakes. And then recognize that as we forgive ourselves and create space for our own new growing, that we can also do that for each other. And collectively, because we're really good at doing things collectively, like, let's start making the world that we all want to live in. It's going to be great. So anyways, if you want to learn more about this stuff, there's like a bunch of links over there on the side. As an essay that I wrote here. And also I just want to let you know that I'm doing a podcast. It's called Fractal Friends, and it's really dope. And I'm breaking this down in lots of different ways. I'm putting out an episode every week. Tomorrow I'm putting out an episode about polarization and how do we lead in an age of polarization. It's a guy named David Brubaker. Well, I've already been talking about spirituality and authentic self-expression and conflict transformation and polarization and how do we solve politics and how do we evolve culture and how do we integrate our past and our future. So come check out Fractal Friends. It's at fractalfriends.us, but you can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. Yeah, and I have a business. It's called Spoken Wheel. We do this kind of transformation for teams. We're about to do a training called the Trustworthiness course. And so we'll be talking about how do we know that we are like how do we trust and how do we become trustworthy. I'll put some links over that as well as in the comments. And yeah, you can find more about me at duncanautry.com. I'm trying to change the world for better. You're trying to change the world for better. We're all trying to change the world for better. So let's just friggin' do this, everyone. It's going to be great. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate those of you who like sat in through this live video. and spread the word. Really, please, like, just share this. Let's get this out there. Thank you.